So we're going to be talking a little bit more about the root cause of all these things today, and starting there, which is in line with the socio-ecological model of culture change, which looks at the root causes of things and the micro, meso, and macro, something I'm really passionate about. So I am also trying to create community here. That's really important to me. I want a community of what I call apologetically fierce graduate students on this campus. Those are people that stand up for things that they are passionate about, that they don't agree with, that may not look right to them or feel right to them. And so I'd love for you to add me on Twitter, to use this hashtag. My goal is at the end of the year to have kind of a compilation of people who have hashtags like, oh, overheard this in a lab and said something about it, or this isn't okay at MIT, and this is not working out for me, or I got called this today. And so we'll talk a little bit more about some of the past experiences at MIT later on. I'm going to be referencing this book a lot. It's from the second wave of feminism called The Second Sex. Who's familiar with this? Someone who my friend. And I use it A, because she was a fierce individual and a trailblazer, which I love trailblazing women, but also because she has wonderful quotes like this that says, society dictates that women can only be humanized and are only worthy of respect if they manifest femininity and womanhood in the proper ways. And so we'll kind of as a group today define what proper ways means. And I hope this quote carries a little more weight for you in the presentation, and it makes you maybe a little bit angry. I like that kind of anger. And my two goals today and at MIT in general during my tenure here is to change the culture around gender-based violence in the graduate community through education, organizing, and awareness, which is basically what we're doing today, and to create an army of self-aware and my lovely hashtag graduate students who use their passion and purpose to be trailblazers interpersonally and professionally. So not just be amazing women scientists and engineers here at MIT and in the field, but also within your own relationships, whether that be in your graduate dorm, in your lab, with your classmates. And then also to redefine leadership. We've been kind of having this national conversation around women in leadership with Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In and some of those other things. So I wanted to redefine what leadership means here at MIT for women in particular, and really just the whole gender spectrum. If I can succeed at this, then MIT will be a much stronger and healthier place for not just you, but for generations to come. And that is really important to me, because I hope that one day when I have children and they decide to go to a tech school like this, and maybe they are a woman or identify as a woman, that this is a safer and more welcoming place for them, and that they feel like they're women here wholeheartedly. So I want to talk about privilege and oppression today. Who has ever had a conversation around privilege and oppression before? Okay, great. And I use this concept of the tree, which is a pretty well-known idea about privilege and oppression, that it starts with the root causes and then the leaves are kind of a product of the systemic oppression. And the root cause that we're talking about today is power and control. So in the dichotomy of male versus female, who owns the power? Very easy. Who owns the power in a male versus female dichotomy? Any power. Any power in the field of science, power in a relationship, power in society. Who has more power overall? Usually men. Usually men. Yeah. Men really do hold the power. They make more money than women, they hold more tenured positions at universities, they're more welcome in science spaces, they hold the power. And so that's just kind of a basic understanding. We'll unpack this a little bit more later in an activity that you guys will for your own definitions too. And this exists because we have something called the gender order. Has anyone heard this term before, the gender order? It's based off this dichotomy of male versus female. And it's a network of beliefs around gender difference and roles for how to perform or do gender, which is why I have the nurse is feminine, the doctor is masculine, and the cheerleader is obviously a girl, and the football player is obviously a boy, and husband versus wife, obviously, and boss and secretary. And I think that just goes to show how deeply ingrained these ideas are in our culture. And so that's, just something to keep in mind as we're moving forward. And then really what waters this, what helps this tree grow is unfortunately with our culture. We feed it, we buy into it, and we nurture these rules and requirements. When I first started doing advocacy work 7 years ago, I was a court advocate, and so I would go to court with my clients, and after they've been assaulted or they were in a domestic violence situation, and either in an escort capacity or a just like a support capacity, and for injunctions and things like that. And I was told by my supervisor, who was in this field, that I had to wear a skirt suit because I wouldn't be taken seriously in the court system if I wasn't in a skirt suit. And that is feeding the system. This concept that I have to wear lipstick, my hair had to be pulled back, I had to look nice, and I had to be in a skirt suit. I hate skirt suits. I hate them. I'd rather wear a dress like I am today with a blazer and fast and uncomfortable. And back then I was like super anti all dress. Like I shaved head for a good part of my journey back then. So that was really like, I'll never forget that. And this is somebody who identifies as a feminist and works in this field. And that I thought was really interesting. That to me was a major water again on this kind of tree of oppression that we're building here. And even when we occupy different roles, whether we're like a single mom or a scientist or a graduating PhD student, we still have to live within these constructs, which I think is really damaging and beyond stressful, that we have to kind of stay within this like skirt suit persona, even when we're wearing a more masculine hat or living in a more feminine role. Constructed. So if it takes all of us to create it, then it naturally will take all of us to break it down. So my goal here at MIT is to kind of help educate people on these topics so that they can address them, stand up for them, and maybe say, absolutely not for that skirt suit. So here's one of my favorite quotes from the second section, and it says, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. It is civilization alone that produces this creature." And what is so beautiful about this quote is she takes the femininity out of the word by using creature as it's kind of Frankensteinian concept of creation, that we just like made this monster that is a woman. And that is so beautiful in an odd way that it's just totally made up. And that's my future. So here's the activity I want to do. I feel like we're big enough to do it in two groups, but I kind of just want to do it all together. So why don't we use these boards up here? So we can do that in markers. They're going to be able to bring on camera. Piece of paper. I want you to write "act like a man" on the top of one piece of paper. Act like a man. And then on these boards right here. Yeah, that'd be great. Act like a man. That one could be actually, but we'll go with that next. Yeah. So, great. All right. So, has anyone, and then draw a big box in the middle that leaves them out that room. Like, how much? There we go. Inside the box, I want you to kind of write some of these things that come to mind. You all can take turns, we can talk about it. So, has anyone ever been told or heard someone say, "act like a man"? Yes. Yes. What are some of those things in reference to? Don't cry. Write these things in the middle of the box. Don't cry. Whatever comes to mind. Don't cry. How are men different from women? Socially, physically, this is really just want you to kind of come up with how you think men are different from women. write that down. Strong need to be respected. Because it's not manly to not be respected. It's not manly to not be in charge. So, okay.
Or maybe the phrase like, I would just like grow a pair.
Grow a pair. I love that. Write that in the box. You can make your box bigger if it's getting a little really filled. Totally fine. How do men act sexually? I Smile, be pretty, wear lipstick.
Oh, get rid of the wire-free glasses. That's another big
Yeah, keep going. Like put anything and everything in this box that you can think of. What are the expectations that women have to uphold? Hospitable. Great.
Trouble with that one.
Caring. Yes. Like all of those. Charisma. Yeah. Play with dolls. That is so good. I hated dolls so much as a kid. So I actually did toys. Actually run the family. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but seen, not heard, right? That's a good one. Seen, not heard.
Not abrasive. Yeah.
Not abrasive, yeah. We have to be passive in the way that we do things. What about sexually? Virginal. Okay. Madonnas, right? But not like Madonnas and like the virgin Madonna, but like the actual physical Madonna. talk speaks in violence to children very differently and how women are viewed. So women is a very powerful word here. We're acting like a lady. So what does that mean? Yeah. So do you have anything to add to this? What does it mean to act like a
I'm
lady?
gonna try to,
No, that's fine. You can do whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and move to those outside the box, and this might be easier to jump in on. If a woman isn't this, what is she? Bossy. A bitch. Bossy. Yes. Go. This is a slut. Yes, thank you. Or rude. Or rude. Oh, yeah. Which, again, kind of this, like, Madonna concept of freaking sheep. But a freak on the streets, but a, wait.
No.
Lady on the streets, but a freak in bed. Thank you. Yes. So, rude versus slut. Kind of that dilemma there. What else? What happens if a woman doesn't fit the mold or fit in the box?
It's called manly. Use an insult.
Yeah. Or dick. Like being called men a pussy and women a dick if she's being bossy. Ball buster. A ball buster. Write these down. Write these down. Okay. Right. So you just have to do this whole thing.
I've been called like the mom, like I'm such a mom about this.
Right.
Yeah. Especially in leadership, women are as aggressive as men, or used to say in the same schools, they are called, a lot of times called unprofessional.
Yes. Unprofessional. Like what does that mean to be like how is that unprofessional? Abrasive. Such a double standard for those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many double standards here. It's like some of the things are out there, all but inside and vice versa. You'll find that it's always masculine. Very confusing. Mixed messages. Are they called? What about lesbians? Lesbians like unattractive, ugly. Weird. Weird. Like, yeah, weird is good. Like, literally, weird is good. Weird is good as well. Like, yeah, you can write, let's write weird.
Or good people start making fun of her body.
Yes, it's like if her personality isn't what they want, then obviously we can now have the right to deconstruct and kind of harass or whatever about this body. As opposed to like arguing. Pretty powerful stuff. Something that sometimes comes up and sometimes doesn't come up, but has a lot of weight. Women who are bossy and strong leaders and in charge and maybe run a lab and like just really powerful women, they will get very violent words attributed to them, like cunt and bitch and whore. Things that like have no, like they're not any of those things. They're very violent language. So oftentimes, depending on people's and that is that gender, like sexuality, is a spectrum. And what's missing is, and as Simone kind of expertly highlighted, very constructed. So these two boxes only further the concepts of homophobia, heterosexism, and transphobia. When we talk about, we kind of see some of the things outside the box. If they're not feminine, then they must be a lesbian. If they're not masculine, then they must be gay. And so those really, you can kind of separate these two pieces of paper and put a line in between, and there's so many different people that could live somewhere in between masculine and feminine. I always kind of attribute it to underwear. So some days I wake up and I want to wear lazy lingerie, and other days I want to wear boxers because it's just that kind of day. And there's some people that live more deeply in one side of the spectrum than the other, and they experience a very special and a much more difficult level of repression than people who fit inside those boxes most of the time. So that's just something to keep in mind. I could do an entirely separate presentation on gender spectrum and sexuality spectrum, but today we're just going to focus on the binary for purposes of this presentation. So food for thought. Also, heterosexism, transphobia, and homophobia is very much alive and well here at MIT. So, all right, how many people think that men and women live inside these boxes 100% of the time? Do you all live 100% of the time in the box that you identify with? No. If I did, I'd be so bored. I'd be so bored. My wardrobe would be so limited, and I would be so miserable. It's not who I am, and it's definitely not who we are as a population. If I want to be a leader, it doesn't mean I'm masculine. It just means I'm going to be a feminine leader, and maybe that means I'm tough, but then that would bring me outside that box. So, what might a man do? How might he react? And he's called one of these names outside the box. What do you think would happen? How would he react to that? Okay. Aggressively? He would do whatever it took to put himself back in that box. And that would be to exert that masculine persona, those things that we talked about today. Just thoughtfully, like just an idea of something you might do. And what about a woman? How would she react? What are the socially constructed idea? How would we anticipate a woman's act if she was called a beg or a bitch?
I feel like in rom-coms what happens is that boss then becomes softer, like has a mental breakdown, or like finds it's always a heteronormative relationship, or finds a boyfriend, and then she's back in the box again, and that's the conclusion of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, she also does what she needs to do to get back in the box, and that's become submissive, become more passive, shut down, step down. There's so many ways that we shut down a strong woman in society. All right. And which box, remember I asked this question at the beginning, which box has more power? The masculine or the feminine box? The masculine box. I think we struggled a little bit with this question because we didn't want it to be true at the beginning. We didn't want this idea that men hold They see it as fine and refuse to consider the possibility of ingrained sexism. They're happy to discuss thought experiments in social science setting in which women are just naturally dumber. It's completely enraging. Here's a discussion I once had with a classmate on the day of the Women in Economics dinner. Male classmate, I wish we had a special Men in Economics dinner. Me. When you're less than 20% of tenured positions in this profession, then you can have a special dinner as well. Really important. And then this one, really long, really powerful. While I have in general felt safe as a female engineer at MIT, I think we should warn women engineers here that they may encounter sexism in industry or other academic institutions. For example, I was asked by a man from a national lab if I entered a male-dominated field only to find a boyfriend easier. And then he accused me of only looking for a boyfriend because I joined an all-male lab. He also explained to the grad students around that I was a unique opportunity for them to ask whatever dating advice was needed. Because as a female scientist, I had to learn to think like a man in order to be competent and therefore innately understand men better than most women. By different men from a different national lab, I was told that some of his male colleagues feel like women have nothing to add to the field. But for the most part, men are willing to tolerate women if they can prove they can do good work. These comments are not only frustrating, but extremely discouraging. I joined science to contribute to a better understanding of the world, not to have my presence tolerated, and not to have my work forgotten about. And certainly not to give dating advice. It happens here at MIT. This is the culture that we live in, that we're watering. And I think that's a really powerful representation. And these are just 3 photos for the survey. There are many, many others. Many, many others. So how do we take this information and build the unapologetically fierce? That statement need a little more need now. Because I feel like sometimes when we stand up for things that we believe in, we're going outside of our box, and we have to apologize for it. There's nothing to apologize about. So it is unapologetically fierce when you do something outside that box, because it is difficult, and it's constricting, and it's taxed. So how do we build this here at MIT? And that's breaking down the gender roles that we discussed today. It's empowering other women around you. It's standing up for a sexist joke when you hear it in a lab and saying, what do you mean by that? And challenging people to really be more introspective with what they're saying and how they're saying it. And it's correcting people when they say things like, she's such a bitch, and challenging that concept and maybe asking them if she's not being a bitch, if she's just being, resolute in how she feels or a strong leader. And throwing more positive words to kind of switch that up on her or them. And then also just continue being the sharpest as you are. You're in a male-dominated field in a male-dominated school where your presence alone is wildly powerful here. And coming to presentations like this and sharing these presentations and talking about gender order is going to improve the culture here at MIT more than you know. Because it seems really passive. It's the roots on the ground. You don't see it. You just see the leaves. But eventually, when the roots die, the leaves don't grow back, and you no longer have a flourishing passion tree. Does that make sense? We can use this. It's empowering. It makes you want to stop every sexist joke from happening. Because every time I do something like this, I'm like, this sucks. I can't stand it. So yeah, so that's what I mean when I deconstructing the American power here. Also, we will play this weekend. Love to play. You all should come. Bring all your friends. It's about slut shaming. We talked a little bit about that today. And it was written by high school students who have experienced this, who had a visceral response to the Steuben Gilbert trial, and how they
biggest engineering school in Germany, and it's really similar to MIT, possibly even the gender stereotypes are even worse because Germany is a lot more conservative in general.
Yeah.
And so I studied at a different school before, and when I came to Aachen, I got really good friends with this girl, and she happened to graduate with the best master's degree of her year, and I was also one of the best students in my year. So we talked to some engineering PhD students, MA students, and for some reason this came up, and it was just, they had no doubt because they saw the two of us, and we were like, so they knew that we were one of the best students in our years, but we were also friends. We're not like bitch fighting each other. So I'm in chemistry. That chemistry degree is like getting a good grade in chemistry. It must be really easy. There was no doubt for them. And then they were like, oh, in mechanical engineering, it's not as easy to get like an A. Oh, that's interesting. Because it was no doubt to them that it must be that chemistry is not as hard than to get an A, which
I
is
love
really
that.
amazing to me.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And by the way, congratulations.
Yeah.
You deserve a major round of applause. But that is, I think that is not common, even here in MIT. Oh, well, that lab just must be easier if more than 1 minute in the lab, or that's not as rigorous of a track. If there happens to be a lot of women graduating from it. So, challenges. Yeah, that's, stand up or do it in a passive way. You're like, do that. Where are you out of your class? What do you mean by that? That's another way to do it. It's my favorite statement. My parents when we say something mildly or aggressive, I'm like, what do you mean by that? And even people are like, I don't know. I have no idea what I mean by that, and I'm sorry. So it's a really challenging question for people to answer. So burn that in your brain. What do you mean by that? Because I promise you it'll get you really far. What else? Anybody else have anything to share? I'm really stuck on the third gender category in China, the male, female, and woman PhD. I'm probably gonna see that other, Yeah.
They invented a lot of bird and self-report. That one is kind of more neutral, like third.
Yeah.
Gender. Another one is the leftover women.
Yeah.
So if you are like more than 27 and still not married, they will put you in the category of leftover women.
Gross.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So, yeah.
Yeah.
you know, women kind of like accidentally but always get the social tasks like organizing parties, organizing events, all the administrative tasks like managing groups, you know, like scheduling. And it's like is my PhD worth less than someone else's? Why am I stuck with these like you know, like administrative roles,
Right.
which take away from the time I have for research? And it's like, oh, like, and I've been told, you know, a number of people, because obviously I'm just like, it's not my job anymore, you know, someone else can do it. And it's like, oh, you're better at it.
Yeah, they put in a comment.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, you know what?
It's
Like,
not being good at it.
like, if you're good enough to get into a PhD at MIT, you can schedule something. Like, I'm pretty sure we're equally good. Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm better at taking minutes? Yeah, okay. Like, thanks.
Or calling restaurants, making reservations. Like,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That is very
But-
frustrating.
So actually one of our female PhDs before she graduated, she pointed this out to my advisor. This was like 2 years ago now. And he really saw the light. He was like, you're right. I've been giving these tasks, like, not intentionally, but more to women than men. And he started really like trying to like fix that. So that's kind of cool. But I still get like sometimes like the other day, one of the postdocs pretty much just gave me the task he was going to have. He's like, oh, you know this party we're organizing for like the graduation person? You do it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So that's when it's like, especially if sometimes I don't start something for like doing them, and that's okay. That's okay as well. That you do like these things, that's fine. But when I'm tasked with those other things, sometimes when I just do like really overtly horrible things, like order a cake or something. And Angela can also empathize with it. And I think that, you know, that was back in like right girl days, but there's also, you know, shade head and like not wearing a computer. And so I think that there's other ways to kind of like, you know, I'm actually really busy right now doing X, Y, and Z, so maybe we could share this responsibility with other people. More socially acceptable, it's very communicating. But that's available as well. So, yeah.
One of my friends here is just got her PhD, and then her fiance doesn't have his, he's like didn't finish or whatever. So they were getting their wedding invites, and then they put Mr. and Mrs. like what so and so, and she's like, no, like I got my doctorate, like so please write like Doctor and Mr. And the person was like so confused as to like why they would do that, or you know they're like, oh, but like he's not doctor, it's gonna look really weird, and she's like, no, I worked like 7 years for this. Like,
Yeah.
please can you call me my doctor? Like, don't call me Ms. or like
Yeah.
Mrs. Like, I am perfectly confident in having an academic degree.
Wow. Absolutely hurtful. I'm from Florida originally. I went to the University of Central Florida and I was a graduate school there as well. And I worked there for several years in different capacities, including leadership development. And when I first moved back here, I went to grad school, working with a student leadership group, kind of growing the student leadership group, working with it. And it was supposed to be a very great position, and I was still looking for work in this field. And really interested in IT. I don't really work out for me. But I have this boss who's big at Harvard Med. And he's a really awesome guy. I really enjoy him. And when I got this job and I was like, dang it, I think he put me in this category of what I can do, what I can't do, and like what I was capable of. And the shock and like the questions he asked me, I was like, you are a very educated man with like a very talented and bright wife. Like, I'm going to stop you right there. Because it was, you know, he just had this perception of what I could do, and like, it was very feminized in a way. And I was like, I can't believe I let you feel this about me. You know, this is not me, this is not who I am. And so I think I've had a little taste of maybe what women in